Nunhell woke to silence, an unfamiliar, unsettling kind. Not the quiet of his penthouse, not the disciplined calm he had trained himself to live in, but something messier, warmer, human. Sunlight slipped through half-drawn curtains, landing on tangled black curls spread across his pillow like spilled ink. His breath stalled. A woman lay beside him. Not just any woman. A beautiful black girl, her skin glowing softly against white sheets, lips slightly parted in sleep, one arm thrown across his chest as if she belonged there. As if she had claimed him. His mind rejected the sight instantly. Impossible. Nunhell had never touched a woman, never wanted to. Desire had always felt like a distraction, something weak men indulged in when they didn't have responsibilities crushing their spine. And yet here she was. Memories crashed back in fragments: champagne, loud music, her laughter ringing too freely, too brightly. Her eyes wild and unguarded. The way she'd stumbled into him, fingers clutching his suit jacket as if he were solid ground. "You look like someone who never breaks rules," she had slurred, smiling up at him. That must be exhausting. He remembered carrying her out of the club. Remembered telling himself he was only helping. Remembered her murmuring his name, Nunhell, like it meant something. He remembered losing control. Slowly, carefully, he lifted her arm from his chest and stood, heart pounding. This was a mistake. A single night. Nothing more. But as he dressed, he looked back at her one last time and felt something dangerous tighten in his chest. Because for the first time in his carefully controlled life, Nunhell didn't want to forget. He had always believed control was everything. Control over emotions, control over desire, control over people. That belief had built him into a billionaire before 35, respected and feared in equal measure. Men admired him. Women whispered about him. Yet no woman had ever crossed the invisible boundary he kept around himself. Until that night. The club was loud, too loud for his taste. He was only there because a foreign investor insisted. Neon lights cut through the darkness, music vibrating through the floor like a pulse he didn't recognize. Then she appeared. She didn't glide like the other women. She crashed into the room, laughing too loudly, moving too freely, a drink in one hand and chaos in her eyes. Black, beautiful, unapologetic. She stumbled straight into his chest. "Oh wow," she said, blinking up at him. "You're very serious looking." Her fingers curled into his jacket as she laughed again, unsteady. He should have pushed her away. Instead he held her. "You've had too much to drink," he said. "So?" she shrugged. "Life is heavy. Drinking helps." Her honesty unsettled him. "Nunhell," someone called from behind. Her eyes lit up. "That's your name? Sounds dangerous." Something inside him shifted. He didn't remember deciding to take her home. He remembered her humming in his car, shoes discarded, head resting against the window. He remembered telling himself he was only being responsible. He remembered her whispering, "You look lonely," before everything blurred into warmth, confusion, and a loss of control he had never experienced before. Morning came too fast. Sunlight crept across white sheets. The smell of unfamiliar perfume filled the room. Nunhell opened his eyes and froze. She lay beside him, curled peacefully. Bare face. Long curls spilling across his pillow like she belonged there. His chest tightened violently. This was wrong. This was a mistake. He had never let a woman into his space, his bed, his life. And yet the sight of her stirred something dangerous. Not desire alone but possession. Curiosity. Fear. She stirred. He stood quickly, dressing in silence, forcing his breathing to steady. When she finally opened her eyes, she smiled lazily. "Morning, serious man." He didn't respond. "You don't talk much," she added, amused. "That's okay. I talk enough for both of us." She sat up, unbothered, unashamed. "What's your name?" she asked. He hesitated. "Nunhell." "Nice," she nodded. "I'm Elsa." The name lingered in his mind longer than it should have. She dressed quickly, slung her bag over her shoulder and paused at the door. "No regrets," she said brightly. "You looked like you needed one." Then she was gone. The door clicked shut. Silence swallowed the room. Nunhell stood there, staring at nothing, his heart pounding like he had just committed a crime against himself. He told himself it was over. One mistake. One night. But deep down, a truth settled in his chest, cold and terrifying. He would never be the same again. Elsa didn't believe in regret. If she did, she would never survive her own life. She woke up that morning with a headache, borrowed clothes folded neatly beside her, and the faint memory of a man who barely spoke but looked at her like she was something he didn't know how to handle. She smiled to herself as she stepped out into the cool morning air. Serious man. She liked him. Not enough to chase but enough to remember. Elsa had always been like that. Daring, chaotic, vibrant, unpredictable. Born and raised in the United States, she'd learned early how to take up space. Her laughter was loud, her emotions unfiltered, her life a mess of half-finished plans and spontaneous decisions. People either loved her or didn't know what to do with her. She didn't try to fit. She was currently studying abroad, juggling classes, part-time work, and friendships that felt more like chosen family. Her future was uncertain, but she didn't fear uncertainty. Control bored her. Which was probably why Nunhell lingered in her thoughts longer than expected. A few weeks later, Elsa sat cross-legged on the floor of a crowded apartment, surrounded by course mates arguing over a group project. "This is a disaster," someone groaned. "No," Elsa said, waving her pen. "It's creative chaos." A girl beside her laughed. "You're insane." "I know," Elsa replied proudly. That was when the door opened and Hayrin walked in. Quiet, polite, sharp-eyed. They'd met in class, but today Hayrin seemed more relaxed, smiling softly as she greeted everyone. "My brother is picking me up later," she mentioned casually. Elsa barely reacted. Brothers were everywhere. Men were everywhere. None of them had ever tried to cage her. Across the city, Nunhell stood before a floor-to-ceiling window, staring at his reflection instead of the skyline. He hadn't slept properly since that night. He had tried to bury the memory under work, meetings, numbers, discipline. It hadn't worked. He told himself Elsa was reckless. A distraction. Someone completely unsuited to his life. And yet, he found himself remembering her laugh during meetings, her careless smile when she'd said no regrets. He hated it. He hated how easily she had entered his mind and how impossible she was to remove. When he arrived at the campus to pick up Hayrin, he expected nothing more than routine. Then he saw her. Elsa stood near the fountain, hair tied loosely, sunlight dancing across her skin, arguing passionately with another student. She gestured wildly, completely unaware of the man watching her from across the courtyard. Nunhell's breath caught. Was her. Here. Before he could stop himself, she turned. Their eyes met. Recognition flared instantly. Her lips curved into a slow, amused smile. "Well," she said as he approached. "If it isn't serious, man." Hayrin frowned. "You know my brother?" Elsa laughed. "Define no." Nunhell's jaw tightened. In that moment, one realization struck him with terrifying clarity. Elsa wasn't just a memory. She wasn't just a mistake. She was now part of his world. And he had no idea how to keep her out. Nunhell was 16 when childhood ended. It happened quietly, no warning, no dramatic goodbye. One evening, he returned home to find the apartment unusually silent. His father's shoes were gone. His mother sat at the kitchen table, staring into nothing, her hands trembling around a cold cup of tea. "He's not coming back," she said without looking up. That shame. Disappearance. Those words would later define his life. Within months, the weight of survival settled onto Nunhell's shoulders. Bills arrived. Food became calculated. Laughter vanished from the apartment like it had never existed. His mother withdrew emotionally first, then completely. She slept through days, cried through nights, and slowly faded into a version of herself that could no longer protect her children. So Nunhell did. Junio was 13, then bright, warm, and trusting. Hayrin was only 10, sharp-eyed, quiet, and far too observant. Nunhell learned how to cook, negotiate with landlords, lie to teachers, and work late into the night. He learned how to smile when exhausted, how to say it's okay when it wasn't. He learned that love was a distraction he could not afford. Girls at school noticed him. He noticed none of them. Romance felt irresponsible when mouths needed feeding. Desire felt dangerous when failure meant hunger. By the time he turned 20, Nunhell was already old. He had built walls so strong nothing could get through, not pain, not longing, not people. Success came later. Money followed discipline. Power followed sacrifice. But happiness? That never came. Now, standing on a university campus years later, watching Elsa laugh with Hayrin, something inside him cracked. She wasn't careful. She wasn't controlled. She lived as if tomorrow was promised. It made no sense to him. And yet he couldn't look away. That evening, Hayrin spoke casually over dinner. "Elsa is interesting," she said. "She doesn't pretend." Nunhell stiffened slightly. "You should be careful around people like that." Hayrin looked up. Why? He had no answer. Because people like Elsa didn't belong in his world. Because people like Elsa could destroy the walls he had built with blood and exhaustion. And worst of all, Because people like Elsa made him want things he had never allowed himself to want. Later that night, alone in his penthouse, Nunhell poured a glass of whiskey he barely drank. He stared out at the city lights, memories of that night colliding with the present. Elsa's laughter, her unafraid eyes, the way she had touched him without hesitation. For the first time in years his chest felt heavy. Not with responsibility, but with longing. And that terrified him more than poverty ever had. Elsa had a way of slipping into people's lives without asking permission. One day she was just another classmate, the next she was eating lunch with Hayrin, borrowing her notes, teasing her about how seriously she took everything. "You're too neat," Elsa said one afternoon, sprawled across the grass while Hayrin read. "When was the last time you did something reckless?" Hayrin smiled faintly. "My brother would have a heart attack if he heard you." "Your brother needs to relax," Elsa laughed. Across the courtyard, Nunhell watched. He had no reason to be there. He told himself that as he sat in his car, engine off, eyes fixed on the two girls. Elsa was too close, too loud, too present. Hayrin rarely opened up to anyone, yet with Elsa she laughed freely, her shoulders lighter. It unsettled him. That evening, Elsa walked Hayrin home, chattering about an upcoming group project. "You should meet my brother properly," Hayrin said. "He's always so serious." Elsa smirked. "We've met." Hayrin paused. "Really?" "Briefly," Elsa replied, eyes glinting. "He doesn't like me." Hayrin frowned. "He doesn't dislike people without reason." Elsa shrugged. "Then I must be special." Nunhell arrived moments later. The air shifted immediately. Elsa felt it, the tension, the restraint, the invisible wall around him. "You're early," Hayrin noted. "Get in the car," he said calmly. Elsa leaned closer to the window. "Hello again, serious man." He ignored the nickname. "You should focus on your studies," he said to Elsa, voice clipped. "Not distractions." Her smile faded slightly. "Distractions?" she repeated. "I didn't realize your sister's friendship needed your approval." Hayrin glanced between them, uneasy. Nunhell met Elsa's eyes. "You don't belong in my sister's life." The words landed heavier than he intended. Elsa straightened. "You don't get to decide where I belong." Silence stretched. For a moment, he saw it, the hurt flickering behind her defiance. Then she smiled again, sharp this time. "Don't worry," she said lightly. "I'm not the type to stay where I'm not wanted." She turned and walked away. Hayrin stared after her. That was unkind. Nunhell said nothing. But that night, the emptiness in his apartment felt louder than ever. Elsa lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. She told herself she didn't care. Men like him were everywhere, cold, controlling, allergic to joy. And yet his words replayed in her mind. "You don't belong." She hated that they had touched something vulnerable. Elsewhere, Junio laughed easily as he chatted with friends, unaware that his path was about to cross Elsa's. And when it did, everything would change. Elsa met Junio by accident. It was one of those ordinary days that turned important without warning. She was running late, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, when she collided with someone just outside the campus library. "Hey, sorry," they both said at the same time. Elsa looked up and laughed. "You're happy," she blurted. Junio blinked, then smiled wider. "Is that a complaint?" "No," she said, grinning. "It's refreshing." He introduced himself easily. No tension. No walls. "Junio," he said. "You're Elsa, right? My sister talks about you." She paused. "Your sister?" "Hayrin." "Oh," Elsa said slowly. "So you're his brother." Junio laughed. "I get that a lot. I promise I'm friendlier." She snorted. "That's not hard." They started talking. Then laughing. Then walking together. Junio didn't mind her chaos. He liked it. He listened when she spoke, asked questions, shared pieces of himself without hesitation. "You're not afraid of people," Elsa noted. "I used to be," he said softly. "My brother taught me how not to be." She didn't miss the quiet admiration in his voice. From a distance, Nunhell saw them. Elsa's head thrown back in laughter. Junio leaning closer. Something ugly twisted in his chest. He told himself it was concern. That Junio was too trusting. That Elsa was unpredictable. But the truth was sharper, darker, and far more dangerous. He wanted her attention. And it wasn't his. Over the following weeks, Junio and Elsa grew close. Study sessions turned into coffee breaks. Coffee breaks turned into late walks. Elsa found herself relaxing around him in a way she never had around Nunhell. Junio never judged. Never controlled. Never made her feel like she was too much. "You're easy," Elsa teased one night. He smiled. You're real. Nunhell watched it all unfold like a man standing outside his own house. Erin noticed first. You don't like Junio around Elsa, she said one evening. That's not true. You're lying, she replied calmly. Why? Nunhell had no answer. Because every time Junio smiled at Elsa, something inside him snapped. Because he had never competed for anyone before. Because the one woman who had broken through his walls was slipping through his fingers and choosing his brother instead. That night, Nunhell realized something he had never allowed himself to admit. He didn't just want Elsa. He wanted her for himself. And for the first time in his life. He was willing to fight for something that wasn't survival. Nunhell had built his life on restraint. But restraint was failing him. He found himself arriving at places he had no business being, cafes near campus, quiet streets Junio and Elsa often walked, events he would normally send an assistant to attend. He told himself he was watching over his brother. That was a lie. One evening he saw them together again. Elsa sat on the hood of Junio's car, legs swinging, teasing him about something. Junio leaned against the door, smiling like the world was light and forgiving. Nunhell stepped out of his own car before he could stop himself. Junio. His brother turned, surprised. Young. Elsa stiffened slightly. What are you doing here? Junio asked. Nunhell's eyes flicked to Elsa. You should go home. Junio frowned. We were just talking. That can wait. Elsa slid off the hood. You don't get to dismiss people like that. Nunhell's gaze sharpened. This doesn't concern you. She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. Everything you do concerns me when you use that tone. Junio looked between them. Did I miss something? Yes, Elsa said. Years of emotional repression. The words hit harder than he expected. Nunhell turned to her, voice low. You don't know anything about me. She stepped closer, too close. I know you're afraid, she said quietly. And you hate that I'm not. For a moment he saw it clearly, the choice. Retreat or reach. And for once he didn't retreat. I don't want you around my brother, he said. Junio froze. Why? The silence stretched. Elsa's breath caught. Because I want you around me, Nunhell finished. The words hung in the air, raw and unpracticed. Junio stared. Elsa didn't move. You don't get to say that now, she whispered. You don't get to decide when you care. Her voice trembled despite herself. Nunhell felt something crack open in his chest. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. But I know I don't want to lose you. Junio stepped back slowly. I didn't know, he said quietly. Elsa looked at him, then back at Nunhell. You don't want me, she said. You want control. And then she walked away. That night, Nunhell sat alone in the dark. He replayed her words again and again. You want control. For the first time he questioned everything he believed about himself. And for the first time, he was afraid he might already be too late. Elsa did exactly what she always did when things became complicated. She disappeared. Not completely, she still went to class, still laughed with friends, but she stopped lingering. Stopped walking home with Junio. Stopped sitting near Heirin during lectures. And most noticeably, she stopped looking for Nunhell. Nunhell noticed immediately. He noticed the empty seat near his sister, the way Elsa no longer crossed paths with him by accident, the absence that settled into his days like a dull ache. He told himself he deserved it. He had spoken too harshly, too selfishly. Wanting Elsa wasn't enough. She needed proof. Elsa, meanwhile, tried to convince herself she was fine. You don't look fine, a friend said as Elsa stared blankly at her laptop. I am, Elsa replied automatically. But she wasn't. She hated how his words had undone her. How his confession, awkward and raw, had felt dangerously sincere. She hated that she cared. Men like Nunhell didn't love loudly. They loved tightly. And she refused to be something someone guarded instead of choosing. Erin noticed too. You're avoiding us, she said gently after class. Elsa hesitated. I don't want to complicate your family. Heirin studied her. You already are. Elsa smiled sadly. That night, Nunhell stood outside Elsa's apartment building. He didn't go in. He simply stood there, hands in his pockets, staring at the lit windows. Junio's words echoed in his head. You don't know how to want without hurting. For the first time, Nunhell understood something crucial. Love was not possession. It was risk. And he had never risked anything that could leave him empty. Elsa sat by her window watching the street below. She didn't see him. But she felt the weight of unfinished words pressing on her chest. She whispered into the quiet, If you want me, come properly. Across the street, Nunhell turned away. Not because he didn't want her, but because he finally understood that wanting her meant becoming someone else. Nunhell had always believed sacrifice was about endurance. Work longer, sleep less, feel nothing. But Elsa required a different kind of sacrifice. One that couldn't be calculated. The first thing he gave up was control over Junio. For years, Nunhell had guided his brother's life quietly, career suggestions, financial support, subtle pressure to stay close, stay safe. Now he stepped back. When Junio told him he wanted to take an internship abroad, Nunhell didn't object. You don't have to stay because of me, he said. Junio stared. You've never said that before. I should have, Nunhell replied. Junio smiled, uncertain but grateful. That night, something in Nunhell loosened. The second thing he gave up was silence. At a small family dinner, Herin finally spoke. You hurt Elsa, she said simply. Nunhell didn't deny it. I didn't know how to speak without commanding. Herin reached across the table. Then learn. The third sacrifice was pride. He went to campus not to watch, not to interfere, but to apologize. Elsa was sitting on the steps, headphones in, lost in thought. He stopped in front of her. I won't tell you what to do, he said. I won't tell you where you belong. She looked up slowly. I'm sorry for treating you like something to manage instead of someone to choose. Her eyes searched his face, looking for manipulation. She found none. I don't need saving, she said. I know, he replied. I need changing. Elsa didn't smile. But she didn't leave either. You don't get closeness without consistency, she said quietly. I can learn that, he said. That evening, Elsa walked home alone but lighter. And Nunhell sat in his office long after midnight, reworking contracts, refusing a merger that would have demanded more of his time than he was willing to give. For the first time he chose less power. More presence. Change didn't go unnoticed. When Nunhell declined the merger, his board panicked. This deal would triple our influence, one executive argued. I'm not interested, Nunhell replied calmly. Silence followed. They had never heard that tone before, not cold, not ruthless and decisive. Later that day his assistant spoke carefully. You've been different lately. I'm correcting an imbalance, he said. He didn't explain further. He couldn't say her name out loud without admitting how deeply she had already rearranged his priorities. Elsa felt the shift too. Nunhell no longer appeared uninvited. He didn't hover. He showed up when invited. Listened when spoken to. Left when she asked for space. It unsettled her more than his control ever had. Consistency was harder to resist. One evening she agreed to coffee. Just coffee. They sat across from each other, hands carefully distant. You don't try to impress me anymore, Elsa observed. I'm tired of performing, he replied. I'd rather be understood. She studied him. And if you aren't? Then I'll still be honest. That answer stayed with her long after they parted. But the world wasn't done testing them. At a charity gala, Elsa attended with classmates, unaware that Nunhell would be there. The room shifted when he entered power, wealth, and expectation. Elsa felt suddenly out of place. Then he saw her. And instead of moving toward donors or executives, he walked straight to her. May I sit with you? He asked. People stared. Elsa hesitated, then nodded. Whispers followed. But Nunhell didn't seem to hear them. For the first time he was choosing her publicly. Across the room Junio watched quietly. Later he found Elsa alone near the balcony. He's serious about you, Junio said. Elsa exhaled. That's what scares me. Junio smiled sadly. He doesn't do anything halfway. She looked at him. What about you? Junio shook his head gently. I think I was meant to teach him what he was risking. That night, Elsa realized something important. Loving Nunhell meant loving a man still learning how to live. And choosing him would mean standing in a world that would never stop watching. The rain fell hard that evening, beating against Nunhell's penthouse windows as if warning him of what was coming. He didn't usually allow storms to distract him, but tonight, even the weather felt personal. Elsa was late. He had waited, pacing in the living room, checking his phone every few seconds. Every message went unanswered. Every second stretched into a threat. When she finally arrived, drenched and shivering, Nunhell's chest tightened. Why didn't you call? He asked, voice low, controlled, but something in his eyes betrayed him. My car broke down, Elsa said quickly, brushing wet curls from her face. I didn't want to bother you. He stepped closer than usual. You know I don't care about being bothered. Her eyes searched his. It's not that simple. He wanted to reach out, to pull her close, to protect her from the rain, from the world, from everything. But he paused. Because he knew fear was a weapon he couldn't use. Not with her. Do you know how it feels to think you've lost someone before you even had them? He asked quietly. Elsa's lips parted. She couldn't look away. I don't want to be lost, she admitted softly. The storm outside raged in tandem with the storm inside him. He reached for her hand but hesitated. You're mine, he said finally, the words heavy with something more than possession. Not because I control you, but because I can't imagine you anywhere else. Her eyes widened. Nunhell, she whispered, half in disbelief, half in fear of being claimed. I'm not perfect, he said, shaking slightly. I will fail. I will hurt you sometimes. But I will never stop trying. For the first time, Elsa saw the man behind the walls. Not the billionaire. Not the obsessive, controlling figure. The boy who had lost everything, who had learned to survive, who now risked it all for her. She stepped closer. Their hands met. Fingers intertwined. Then I'll stay, she said, voice trembling but certain. That night, as the rain poured and the city lights blurred into streaks of gold, Nunhell realized the truth he had been running from. Love wasn't control. Love was risk. And he would risk everything to keep her. The morning after the storm, the city was washed clean, shimmering, quiet, almost hesitant to breathe. Nunhell arrived at campus earlier than usual, heart strangely restless. Today wasn't about work or meetings or control. Today was about her. Elsa was sitting under a large oak tree near the library, sunlight filtering through the leaves, books scattered around her like a casual battlefield. He approached slowly. You came, she said, glancing up with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I said I'd show up, he replied. You get to see me trying. Her laugh was soft, warm, and she motioned for him to sit beside her. They walked through campus together, side by side. For once there was no tension. No distance. No hidden barriers. Just two people cautiously exploring a connection that neither fully understood yet. Elsa spoke freely about classes, her chaotic plans for the weekend, and the absurdities of her professors. Nunhell listened. Really listened. Not calculating, not controlling, just listening. Why do you care? Elsa asked suddenly, pausing mid-step. About you? Nunhell asked, not missing a beat. She nodded. Because I don't know how not to, he said quietly. She stopped walking. Their eyes met. For a long moment, the air seemed charged with a tension that had nothing to do with anger or jealousy, only honesty. Later they sat on a campus bench, watching the city unfold below. Elsa leaned against him, careful but trusting. Are you afraid? She asked softly. Terrified, he admitted. She smiled faintly. Good. That means you're real. He turned toward her. I want to be real with you. I don't want walls. I don't want secrets. Elsa's hand found his. She held it not loosely, not playfully, but with quiet conviction. You're not asking me to be yours, she said. You're asking me to trust you. Exactly, he whispered. And for the first time, both of them understood something crucial. Trust wasn't built in a night. But it could begin there. That afternoon, Junio noticed them from afar. Elsa's hand in Nunhell's. Their quiet smiles. The subtle intimacy that wasn't about possession, but connection. He didn't interfere. He had already stepped back. But he understood. Some battles weren't meant to be won. Some hearts were meant to find their own path. It started with a message. A business associate of Nunhell's, someone he trusted blindly, had made a reckless mistake, one that threatened to expose sensitive company information. The news spread quickly, creating whispers in the media. Nunhell's first instinct was to shut himself away, to handle it alone. Control was what he knew. Efficiency. Secrecy. Avoiding chaos. But chaos had already walked into his life, and her name was Elsa. She noticed his tension immediately. You're avoiding me, she said during their coffee date. Her brow was furrowed. Something's wrong. He didn't answer at first. Not because he didn't trust her, but because he feared dragging her into the storm. I can handle it, he said finally, carefully. This isn't your battle. Elsa leaned closer. Nothing in my life has been your battle until now, Nunhell. And you already care too much for me to pretend it isn't affecting you. Her words struck him harder than any business crisis could. That evening, the media frenzy escalated. Rumors flew, false allegations, exaggerated mistakes, whispers that could harm both his reputation and the company's bottom line. Nunhell retreated to his office, pacing, analyzing every possible outcome. Then his phone buzzed. Elsa had sent a single text. I'm not leaving. I trust you. The words, simple and fearless, reminded him why he had chosen to fight for her. He called her immediately. "Stay with me," he said, voice low but steady. "Through this. Don't leave me to handle it alone." Elsa's reply was quiet but unwavering, "I'm not going anywhere." The next week was a whirlwind of strategy meetings, damage control, and long nights. Elsa stayed by his side, not hidden in fear but present. Not controlling, not questioning, simply a support he hadn't known he needed. For the first time, Nunhell allowed someone into his controlled life without fear of losing power or authority. And in that vulnerability he discovered something deeper than obsession: trust. By the end of the crisis the company was safe. The rumors silenced. Nunhell looked at Elsa, her hair messy from long hours, her eyes bright despite exhaustion, and realized the truth. The woman he had once thought reckless and unpredictable was now his anchor. And he didn't want to survive without her. The city was quiet that night. Rain had stopped, leaving streets glistening like liquid silver. Nunhell and Elsa walked slowly through the empty avenues, hand in hand, no pressure, no rushing, just two people learning the rhythm of each other. "You've changed," Elsa said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Have I?" Nunhell asked, glancing at her. "Yes," she smiled, leaning slightly into him. "You used to live behind walls. You were untouchable. Now," she hesitated, "you let people in." He squeezed her hand gently. "It's easier with you." Elsa looked up at him, eyes searching. "Am I really enough?" He stopped walking. Her small question deserved a real answer. "You're more than enough," he said quietly. "You're the first person I've ever wanted to exist in my life outside of obligation. Outside of responsibility." Her breath caught. For once she didn't laugh, didn't tease, didn't deflect. She let herself absorb the words. They continued walking until they reached a small park. A single lamppost illuminated a wooden bench. Nunhell gestured toward it. They sat. No words were necessary at first. The sound of their breathing, the warmth of their joined hands, the quiet hum of the city, it was all enough. Then Elsa spoke. "I like this us. The calm, the ordinary. It doesn't scare me." Nunhell's lips curved slightly, the faintest smile touching his usually stoic features. "I'm learning," he admitted. "Learning that life isn't just survival. That love isn't just desire or possession. It's quiet. It's choosing someone every day even when nothing else makes sense." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Then I choose you." His arm went around her naturally, instinctively. For the first time he didn't worry about control. Didn't worry about fear. Didn't worry about the world. They sat together in silence, and in that quiet, something shifted. The obsession was gone. The jealousy faded. All that remained was love, deep, patient, and real. Later, walking back to their separate apartments, Elsa glanced at him. "You're not afraid anymore, are you?" He looked at her, dark eyes soft, steady. "I'm only afraid of losing you," he said. Her laugh was low and relieved. "Then don't." And in that simple exchange, both of them realized. Whatever storms the world might send, whatever challenges lay ahead, they were facing them together. The following week, Nunhell's world collided with the one he had been quietly building with Elsa. Hayrin approached him first, her expression unreadable. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. "For what?" he replied cautiously. Hayrin's own words hung in the air. "Family matters. Your past in my life. And Elsa's family, what happens if they find out you're serious?" Nunhell's jaw tightened. "Then we face it." Elsa arrived at the penthouse that evening, excitement mixed with tension. She stepped inside to find Nunhell waiting, suited as always, but there was a softness in his eyes she hadn't seen before. "Family dinner?" she asked, half teasing, half nervous. He nodded. "We need to show them this isn't just a fleeting thing. This is serious." Elsa smiled faintly, the weight of expectation heavy on her shoulders. "I can handle it," she said. "Are you ready to let them in?" He hesitated just for a moment. Then he took her hand. "I'm ready. With you, I'm ready for everything." Dinner was tense at first. Nunhell's father, long absent, had returned briefly to observe his son's growing empire. His questions were sharp. His gaze piercing. He wanted to see if Elsa was a distraction or the woman who could truly anchor his son. Elsa didn't flinch. She answered politely, honestly, and with confidence. "She's extraordinary," Nunhell said quietly, enough for her to hear. "And she's mine not because I control her, but because I choose her every day." Hayrin and Junio exchanged small, approving smiles. By the end of the night, the tension eased. The storm had passed, not without effort, not without nerves, but it had passed. After dinner, Elsa and Nunhell walked alone in the quiet courtyard. He looked at her, dark eyes shimmering in the soft lights. I had to. For you. For us. Her hand found his again, fingers intertwining effortlessly. And now, she asked. Now, he said, pulling her close. We continue. Together. Whatever storms come, we face them as one. Elsa smiled, the chaos in her heart finally settling into a rhythm she hadn't known was possible. For the first time in years, Nunhell allowed himself to hope, and it wasn't fear that accompanied it. It was love. Pure, patient, unshakable love. The morning sun poured into Nunhell's penthouse, painting the room in gold. He sat at the edge of the bed, dressed casually for the first time in months, waiting for her. Elsa entered, coffee in hand, messy hair tied back, eyes bright and full of life, the same chaotic, vibrant woman who had walked into his world and transformed it completely. You're early, she teased. I'm not letting you slip away, he said softly, taking her hand. She laughed, shaking her head. I'm not going anywhere, serious man. He smiled faintly, the nickname now carrying warmth instead of tension. The city outside was alive with movement, but in that apartment time slowed. Nunhell leaned forward, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You changed me, he admitted quietly. Not with force. Not with control. With you being yourself. Elsa's lips curved into a soft smile. It took a lot for you to let go. I had to, he replied. Because loving you isn't about possession. It's about choosing you every day. Her eyes softened. Then I choose you too. They embraced, a quiet, unshakable certainty settling between them. Later that day the family gathered again, this time without tension, without judgment. Heirin laughed freely, Junio clapped Nunhell on the shoulder with a grin. You finally learned how to let someone in, Junio said, half teasing, half sincere. Nunhell only smiled. I had the best teacher. Elsa laughed. I didn't teach you anything. You just finally decided to be human. He chuckled, pulling her close. And you finally decided to trust me. Their hands entwined, their hearts aligned, and the past, the obsession, the mistakes, the walls melted away. That evening, as the city lights twinkled like stars brought down to earth, Nunhell and Elsa walked together along the quiet streets. He leaned down slightly, whispering into her hair, We'll face storms. We'll fight challenges. But I promise you this. She looked up at him, expectant. Whatever comes, I'll always choose you. Elsa smiled, her heart finally at peace. Then I'll always choose you too. They kissed gently, tenderly, not with need but with the calm, enduring certainty of two souls who had found home in each other. And for the first time in both their lives, love wasn't chaos, control, or obsession. It was freedom. It was trust. It was forever. And they were ready.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel. Click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is posted. Also leave us a like, comment, and share to others who love good stories.